It's also going to rise above fiat, and I think it's just better technology. I mean, having to have a bank and a government decide on what currency is good is not as effective as having a Bitcoin where you have a trusted third party, which is hundreds of thousands of nodes out there checking to make sure that the transaction was done properly. So I think it's just better, safer technology, and eventually the rest of the world will come on board.
And there you have it from Tim Draper. And if you don't know who Tim Draper is, you can check him out at Tim Draper on Twitter. But also, he's best known for being a billionaire investor and a venture capitalist. And he said that Bitcoin would reach $250,000 in June of 2023. Well, as we know, that didn't come true, but he says that it'll eventually happen, maybe in 2025. There's a good chance that could happen. So Tim's talking about that most of the world will go and adopt this technology as well. He has not backed down his technical targets, but he may have been a few years off. And with that, what's happening, Crypto Crew? Sean's coming back at you, another cryptocurrency video. Getting straight into it, take a look at the Bitcoin price chart at the current time it's recording. We're taking a look at Bitcoin versus the US dollar on the weekly, and we've bottomed out here. Could we see lower price action? Potentially, but it looks like Bitcoin's being pretty bullish. As you see, we are stair-stepping our way up, and Bitcoin has just came up, retested this lower level here, and look what's happening. We're coming back down. We could come back down and test this level down to the lower $28,000 range. So we could see lower price action. We could actually see a wick below this like we did here before. But as you see, if Bitcoin is going to make a blast up to the upside, we could be, if we do come up to this upper bound, Bitcoin could be hitting that $40,000 to $50,000 threshold. So that's what's next in the cards for Bitcoin and crypto? Well, we have to be patient because once again, time is of the essence. And the longer you're in this game, the more gains you obtain. Remember that. And then taking a look at the total crypto market capitalization, we're looking at this on the daily, and we've seen that we've been just hitting overbought territory on the RSI. We've come up to this 70 level once, twice, now 3 times, and we've been down in a retracement. So looking at this, if we take a look here and we take a look up here, and coincide those, when we come back down and then come back up to the overbought territory, what does the price action do? It puts in a higher high. And then come back down, put in a higher price action. What the price action do? Put in a higher high. Now, one thing to note, we came back down, and we'll see how, if we do have a retracement up, where is this up level going to be? Will this up level come up and put a higher high in over that technical target with a candle body of $1.197 trillion? Or are we going to come back up? Are we going to break this pattern and then fall back down to the downside? We have to pay attention to this. We haven't really been extremely overbought. So if we look back in the charts, it does seem that the trend is rolling over and we could be seeing more downwards price action. If we do see more downwards pressure, where is the technical targets and where could we see as far as the total crypto market capitalization goes? Well, if we zoom out in the charts, take a closer look, you do see that we are putting in a higher low, and the trend's your friend to the end. Low, high, low, high, low. So we're putting in a higher low every single time. So this is the area you want to pay attention to. If we break this area here, this $992 billion threshold, then I think Bitcoin might be in trouble because that is breaking the macro trend. Bitcoin and the total crypto market capitalization may be in trouble because that is breaking the macro trend. And this macro trend is your friend to the end. So if we start to put in a lower low, then that trend is going through a reversal pattern. And then an update from Stock Money Lizards. He's looking pretty bullish, even though we're pre-halving. This is a beautiful chart. Taking a look here, the all-time high 2017, you see we just established this base here. We come below this base, come back down, retest this base. This is the pandemic dump, then have that blast off. Look at this base here. We come back with the all-time high in 2021. We come back down, establish this base, and look at, we retest this base. What happens when we came back down and retested the base? We blasted through it here, got overbought, and came back down to it. Well, right now, we really haven't got back above it yet. Right now, we just tested it once, twice. It's getting weaker because the more you retest this resistance, the weaker that resistance gets. Eventually, we're going to get that blast off and then potentially a retracement back down to that $30,000 threshold to flip resistance to support before we have that blast off and continuation to the upside. So keep this in mind. Another update from Stock Money Lizards, another Bitcoin pattern. You see 539 days before the halving and then 525 days of bullish upside to the right. Then we go through 518 days before the halving. Then we have 546 days before the blast up and to the right. So look what happened. We're in this 532 day window, which goes right to the halving. And then afterwards, another 530, 550 days, we're going to see a macro blast up to the upside in 2025. So keep this in mind. Definitely a good call out from Stock Money Lizards. Without further ado, we have an update from Lawrence Lepard. Y'all know who he is. He's the investment manager of Equity Management Associates, LLC. Lawrence has been on a lot of different, podcasts, being a big advocate for Bitcoin. As you see, he has a big following on Twitter. So you can check him out at Lawrence Lepard if you want to hear more from him. But without further ado, let's hear from Lawrence.
I believe there was some talk that certain very large people might be able to take the coins directly out of BlackRock. Something like, 40,000 units or something. I don't recall, and that's possible. But, is it going to be as easy to manipulate Bitcoin as it is to manipulate gold is a question I get asked a lot. And I would say not quite, for a couple of reasons. One, because gold has been around a lot longer and they've built up all kinds of infrastructure to do it. So they've had 40 years to figure out how to do it, and they've done it really well. And, Robert Rubin was a JR and trader before he went to Goldman, and then he helped Clinton wreck the bond market. And so they've got a great system, and they did it all through the Cayman Islands. They had all these entities in the Cayman Islands that were, buying and selling and shorting gold, and they had an unlimited balance sheet. I mean, I'm quite sure, I believe strongly, I don't know if Caitlin agrees with me on this, but I believe quite strongly that the government runs two sets of books. And they've had national security directives from the president about doing financial things kind of off the books. And I think that there were times when it was important where they would short gold or go long the S&P futures or do whatever they had to do. And if it turned out that trade, whatever hedge fund they had to do that on their behalf, did not work out for them, they just printed the money and filled the hole. And it was all off balance sheet, off books. I mean, Catherine Austin-Fitts talks about this too. It's going to be harder to do this with Bitcoin. And the biggest reason I cite is the price volatility. With gold, a big year is up 30% and a big down year is maybe down 15 or 20%. Look, you can short into that and hold it and wait. And then, they can play that game. This is a whole different asset. This is a whole different animal. And, Luke Roman and I have laughed about this a lot. I mean, when Bitcoin went from 5 or 10 grand to 50 grand in the space of 12 months, that was a holy moment for a lot of central bankers all over the world. I mean, they were like, oh my God, we got a real problem here. And so, if you think about how they manipulated gold and they did it through the Caymans, you're down 30% in a position, it's leveraged, whatever. You can do it. But when you've got something that can rip your face off to the tune of a 400% appreciation very quickly, that's an entirely different kettle of fish. So, they're going to have to be careful. And, to the question of is it being manipulated today, you can go to Glassnode, you can look at the futures contracts, you can look at the number of derivatives outstanding. And Caitlin knows this probably better than I do, and there are billions of dollars involved in, playing around with paper Bitcoin. But if you go to, CoinMarketCap and you look at what's trading every day, and you look at the total market cap, it's still pretty small. I mean, the paper gold traded as against the underlying physical moving around, there have been various computations done by some of the really smart people that show that it's, 10 to 100x. And I don't think that's occurring yet with Bitcoin.